Hello guys, so we are back and this time to do our running cycle, okay? So we're going to start by the a regular running cycle, a generic running cycle, okay? And it's very similar to the walk cycle, like you guys saw in our class. So we're going to do the basic poses and I'm going to repeat the first pose in the last frame, and then we're going to do the key poses in between, starting by the main poses, and then adjust everything else. Cool. So let's start by the basics. So I'm going to turn off the selection for everything that is not a curve. I'm going to check in the settings in the time slider if we have play every frame, 24 frames per second, up to date view all, and then I'm going to save it. I'm going to turn on the automatic key. Um, And yeah, let's start. Oh, one more thing that you want to fix. The run cycle is faster than the walk cycle, of course, which means one cycle is shorter than one cycle for the walk cycle, okay? So instead of 24 frames, repeating the first one on the 25th, we're going to change this to 18 frames. So I want to have 19 frames here and then 18 frames here. Okay. This is my Maya. It's 2022, so it's a different version, probably a different layout, probably a different interface than what you have here. But anyway, you got the idea. Cool. So let's start by the first pose. I'm gonna drag to select everything, and I'm gonna key on the first frame. And we're gonna start by the main controllers. So first the hip. In the running cycle, the hip, oh sorry, it's this one. In the running cycle, the hip really goes up and down, like small jumps, okay? So we're gonna move the hip up. We can always adjust this later. I'm gonna move like this for now. And then I'm gonna move the feet in this position. In a position like this. And again, of course, I can always come back and adjust if I need. Okay, so if I have the body in this position, I think you guys remember, we can rotate the hip a little bit like this to accordingly to the legs, you know, and then we're gonna turn the spine to the other side because the arms are opposite to the legs and we want the spine to go with the arms. Cool. So rotate a little bit more, and then we see what happens. Uh, so we're gonna pose the arms here, same way as the walk cycle, but maybe a little bit more exaggerated. And this time, I want a fist pose. I'm not spending time here in this tutorial, in this class, to make like the perfect fist. I'm just gonna select this controller and then I'm going to select uh, those attributes, like starting by the index, then shift click the thumb. So I have all selected, and then I will middle click the wheel mouse. I'm going to middle click on the wheel and drag to both sides, left and right, so I can adjust the what's happening in those attributes. Okay, I'm gonna just like this, right? I'm gonna do like this right now. Just so you guys know, this middle click you can do in whatever parts and whatever attribute you want. Like if I select the foot, I can come here to translate Y, which means I can move it up and down. So I can middle click and drag up and down. In this case, because it's Y, right? I can select Translate Z, middle click, and drag left and right. I can even rotate. I can like select any rotate, click and drag and see what happens. Okay, and if you want, you can select several of them and middle click and do whatever you want and drag, but of course it's going to be a mess. I usually do this sometimes. I'm undoing everything. I usually do this to save some time. Sometimes it's faster doing this way. Let me just redo this. Okay, here it is. Not a best fist, but it's okay for now. And then I'm gonna do the same for the same pose for the other fist. Selecting all of this, making a fist. If you want deselect, you can click like an empty area like this. It will deselect everything. And then I'm gonna pose the arm. Yeah. One thing interesting for the running cycle is our weight, the weight of our body. We move it a little bit forward because we want the weight to help us on the running balance. And this running balance is leaning forward. Okay, so we're gonna do something like this. Oh, just so you guys know, I talked to some of you, like I have the spine selected here, right? So if I want to move in just one direction, I can grab let me turn off the curves. I can grab the arrow I want and move it, right? So I can move to the sides, forward and back, or maybe up and down, right? And I can move in two directions if I want. You see those squares here? So if you grab this square, you're only moving to the sides, back and forth and to the sides. You're not moving up and down. It's like moving on a virtual plane, you know? And I've selected this, it's gonna move forward and up and not an inch to the side. Okay? So sometimes this help because, for example, if you want to move this foot up and forward, instead of moving up and then moving forward, you can just grab here and move up and forward as you want. Cool. So yeah, let's keep going. So I pose the arms, I pose the spine, leaning forward a little bit, and I want to pose the head as well, leaning forward a little bit. Because when we run, we're more focused, and this is kind of a focused position. Cool. So I have everything keyed. All right, so I have keys in everything. So I go to frame 19, and then I'm gonna key everything again. So I know I have the same pose in frame 1 and frame 19. And then I go to the middle of the animation. If our animation, our cycle is 18 frames, uh, it should be two parts of 9 frames. So this would be the last of the first part, and this would be the first of second part. So we're gonna key frame number 10, and we're gonna make the opposite pose. Okay, so let's do this. So you guys have a pose similar to mine? Cool. So let's keep going. Now we're going to do the in-between poses, okay? Starting by another strong pose that I'm going to select frame 6 to do it. So going to frame 6, I'm going to bring down our hip, bring down our feet, sorry. Just let me check one thing. So I have the blue foot in front. So in frame 6, the blue foot will be on the ground. I want to set translate y to 0 and rotate to 0 as well. So it is on the ground like this. I will move up the hip. I don't want a straight leg for the running cycle. I want some bending, something like this. And then I'm gonna do a pose like this to the red foot that is going forward. It's a bit higher than the walk cycle. Okay. And I'm gonna click drag everything, hit S to set a key, just in case, right? The arms I'm gonna keep as this for now, because they are in the middle of going to the next pose. Okay, so I will key everything in frame 15, and then we're gonna do a mirrored pose compared to frame 6. So if in frame 6, I have the blue foot down on the ground, on frame 15, I want the red foot, okay? So I'm gonna set 0 to translate Y, and I'm gonna set 0 to rotate X. I'm gonna move a little bit forward. I wanna pose similar to this, to the blue foot, and I'm gonna bring the hip down, having some bending on the knee. Cool? So yeah, this is a very rough, very basic running cycle. And then we're gonna start on the details. Cool? Just like we did with the walking cycle. So, okay. First thing you wanna do is do the in-between poses. Let me just select everything and key in every keyframe so I don't miss the poses. I don't lose them. And then, yeah, let's do the in-between poses. So I'm going to start by pose number 3. One thing that we want to do for the feet, oh, sorry, let me start by a different thing that we can't forget, which is selecting the hip, going to our graph editor, to Windows Animation Graph Editor. Let me make it smaller here. And we want the translate Y. So I'm selecting translate Y. We definitely want the hip to bounce. So I selected the 2 keys, dragging, and then I click it on this linear tangent. Okay. So I'm going to put my graph editor aside for now, and then we're going to have something like this. Maybe he's jumping too high. I can adjust this in the future. So let's go back to frame 3 because we want to make some adjustments to the feet. Okay. So yeah, he is kind of going too high. Let me bring this down a little bit on 6. And because on frame 4, we want him lower. So let's bring the graph editor here. Let's select translate Y. I have my channels here. They're just hidden, okay? Because we can select either here in the channel box or here, right? I like to make some space by hiding this and selecting here. So I select translate Y, and then I'm gonna select the keys, the higher ones, and I'm gonna bring them down. Cool. I'm also selecting the feet. I'm going to first frame and I'm gonna bring them down. This time I'm gonna use the manipulator. Okay, then I'm gonna copy, go to the last frame and paste. And then I go to frame 10. I already have the feet selected, so I'm gonna just move down. Cool. Yeah, so he's not jumping that much. Jumping definitely lower. I can improve this and change this again if I want. But anyway, so let's go to the in-between poses. You know what? Instead of frame 3, let me delete this. I'm going to start by frame 4. And what do I want in frame 4 for the foot? Oops, sorry. I'm going to select the front foot, the blue foot, and I'm going to do something like this. Don't bring the leg all the way down so it doesn't, it's not too stretched, you know? So we always want something like this. And then you can adjust the foot if you want. This foot, you can bring a little bit closer. Actually, we're going to bring closer to the butt, something like this. Yeah. Um, and the arms, we're going to leave them as it is for now. Okay. So if I did this for the foot, for the legs actually, on frame 4, then I want to go to frame 13 and do the same thing for the feet. So I'm going to bring this here and this one closer to the butt. Cool. So yeah, there you go. And let's keep going. The legs in the running cycle are probably the most complicated part. It's not hard, but there's a labor work because we have sometimes to do frame by frame animation, you know? So let's keep going for and see what happens for every frame. Um, frame 4 is something like this, and we want frame 2 to also have a straight leg. So something like this and bring the foot up. Yeah. So a pose like this would be cool. And we don't have to mind about the foot behind for now. Okay. So if we did this in frame 2, we're going to go in frame 11 and do the same to the other foot. So bring it over to the screen left and rotate the foot up a little bit. Yeah. So something like this, because we usually have our legs straight at some point in the running cycle, our front leg. Okay. One thing that is cool to have is something like this. Or, for example, let me use the grease pencil. This is different from your version, probably. So you have a blue pencil, right? Here I have in Maya 22, I have a what's called a green pencil. So we want to have something like this. Let me show you. Okay. We want the foot to do like a mark. Okay. Let me close this and I show you guys. So frame 1, 2, 3, rotate a little bit up, 4, rotate again. It doesn't have to be perfect. 5, we can maybe bring it down and already put here. So I would set translate Y to 0, just like frame 6, and rotation to 0 as well. So yeah, cool. This is cool. Let's do the same for the other leg. So frame 10, the foot's there. Frame 11, it's cool. Frame 12 looks cool as well. Frame 13, frame 14, we want it already on the ground. So translate Y is 0 and rotate X is 0. Cool. So yeah, nice. Right? So now we're gonna adjust the back leg. And what happens to the back leg? Well, let's consider first this foot. So when it goes from this point on, it should keep the energy. You see that there is an energy here. Let's use another color. So we have these foots around here, here, here. Let me change this so we can see more frames. And then 5. This is called spacing. You guys see the spacing between the frames? So yeah, when we come to frame 6, we are here. When we come to frame 7, we want something that keeps going with the same energy, right? So yeah, it's not following, it will not follow something like this, but will be somehow, we have to keep it the idea, okay? So our feet actually does something like this when we are running, okay? So let's do this and or something similar to this. So running on frame 6, frame 7, frame 7, we can definitely bring it down. I'm gonna hit S to key everything. S, S. I'm gonna keep translate Y as 0, rotate X as 0 as well, and then I'm gonna add some row here, okay? And then I'm gonna move this here. Cool. After that, let's see, frame 8. So frame 8, I will key everything again. So I keep the pose. I remove the roll, first thing, and then I'm gonna rotate the foot and bring something around here. I can even do something like this. I'm gonna bring a little bit closer. Makes more sense. Yeah, and frame 10, I'm gonna bring a little bit back. Yeah. We did this pose for frame 13, and what I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to remove this frame and I'm going to frame 12. I feel that this makes more sense. I'm going to bring this frame closer to the butt. Something like this for now. Yeah. And then we have, so one of the legs is basically done. Cool. Let's adjust the other one. So selecting the red foot, I'm going to start by frame 10 to make it the same cycle. Okay, so it's here in the front pose. Frame 11, it's straight. 12, it's kind of following the arc like we did before. 14, 15, I'm gonna key everything on 15, just in case. Then we're gonna key everything on 16. Then I want to also bring to the ground. So translate Y and rotate X, set to 0. Then I select a row, I add some row, and then I move the foot back, similar to what we did before. Then I go to frame 17. I'm going to set a key again. I'm going to zero out row, and then I'm going to rotate and move in a way that makes more sense. Okay? Then frame 19, I'm going to bring a little bit, something like this. Yeah. Frame 19 should be the same as frame 1. So I'm going to copy here, and then I'm going to paste to frame 1. Cool. And remember that I moved the other keyframe for the other leg. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to delete frame 4, and then I'm going to frame 3, 2 frames after frame 1. And I'm going to move here closer to the butt and just keyed everything. Yeah. And then we have the legs. There you go. Cool. All right, so let's keep going. Let me just remove all the grease pencil. Probably is different from yours, but okay. All removed. Bye-bye. So let's keep going with the spine. Okay. Oh, I see here, if you guys see as well, a leg too straight to stretch it. You can always go there. Yeah, and now it's this one. I'm gonna key everything so I don't lose this. Yeah, cool. So let's keep going. And what we're gonna do now is the spine. So remember the spine had a reaction with the bouncing of the hip. So we're gonna do the same here. But this time, the overlap animation will be faster, shorter, just one frame, okay? So our bouncing is happening on, let me see, translate Y, on frame 6 and frame 15. Have a different height. Yeah, maybe I'll bring this up a little bit. Cool. So frame 6 and frame 15. So that said, I will select the spine and I'm going to go to frame 7. I'm going to key everything and I'm going to go to frame 16 and I'm going to key everything. And you know what? I remove frame 6 and frame 15 so it doesn't bother us. Cool. For this reaction, we want the spine to bend forward, not too much, to move forward, not too much as well, and to move down. Okay? And frame 16, we want to do the same. Move forward, move down, bend forward. I'm going to move forward a little bit. Cool. So now we should have something that is very subtle. One thing that we can do to make this more noticeable is we can go to frame, this is 7, let's go to frame 5, and let's rotate it back just a little bit. And also move it back and up. Okay, then we go to frame 14, which is 2 frames before 16, and then we're gonna hit S again, move up a little bit, move back a little bit, and rotate it back a little bit. So it should be a little bit more noticeable. Cool. And the head now. The head is in the same position for now. So if we select the head, you're going to see in the graph editor, it's just a flat line, although we have some keys. I'm going to remove all those keys. I just select them and hit delete in the keyboard. And then we're going to do the reactions to the spine. Okay, so I'm going to select the spine. I know it's the reaction is happening in frame 7 and frame 16. So I'm going to go to my head. I'm going to set a key in frame 7. I'm going to set a key in frame 16. And then I'm going to go in frame 8. I'm going to create a key as well. And then I'm going to rotate a little bit. And then I'm going to go to frame 17. I'm going to key as well. And I'm going to rotate a little bit. It's just a bit because when we run, our body's more rigid. Our body is more prepared, the adrenaline, so we are not that flexible. You see here that after the bounce of the head, like in 16, it's the regular pose, 17 rotates a little bit down, and then it goes back to normal in frame 19. So we're going to do the same here. So we have the bouncing in frame 8, the reaction in frame 8, and 2 frames later in frame 10, we want to have a key that it goes back to normal. If we see our graph editor is going to be something like this. So we can basically copy the pose from frame 1 or frame 7 or frame 16 or frame 19. It doesn't matter. I'm going to copy from frame 1 and then I'm going to go to frame 10 and then I'm going to paste. Okay, so we're going to have something like this in our graph editor. And yeah, there we go. Cool. So let's do the arms now. For the arms, it's very similar to what we did with the walking cycle. So elbows will react after the shoulders and wrists will react after the elbows. But in this case, we're going to make the elbows and wrists react at the same time because it's a faster movement. We don't want too much of a delay. Otherwise, it's going to look rubbery, too flexible. So we have the shoulder. Let's start by the red arm. We have the shoulder doing the movements in frame 1, frame 10, which means we can erase this. Frame 15, we can also erase, and then frame 19. Okay, so 1, 10, and 19. So I want to select the elbow, and I want what's happening in frame 10 actually happen in frame 11. So I can just move this key. Okay, if you see the graph editor, you're going to have something like this. And you can actually remove the keys. You don't need it, right? And at frame 2, which is 1 after frame 1, we want to exaggerate a little bit. Okay? So the graph editor is going to be something like this. And in order to make a smoother curve, we're going to select the first and last key, and you're going to hit linear tangent. So it's going to go up, 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 and then continue go up here. Cool? So this is what we're going to have. It looks a way more less flexible actually than the walk cycle, right? But that's on purpose. Okay. And then we're going to do the same for the wrist. Okay. So if I select the red wrist, we go to frame, let me check again, 11 and 2. So I select the wrist, we go to frame 11, we're going to make a very subtle movement out, and then we go to frame 2, and we're going to make a very subtle movement in. Okay? Our graph editor will be something like this, which means we can go to frame 6 that we don't need it. Then we go to frame 10, we don't need it. Then we go to frame 15, we don't need it as well. And that's what we have. I'm going to also select the rotate Z, and yeah, that's correct. So don't worry about it. And yeah, there it is. And then we're going to make the same for the other arm. So selecting the shoulder, the blue shoulder, we're going to have a graph editor like this, which I will remove everything I don't need, but I know the extreme pose is in frame 10. So I select the elbow, I remove the keys I don't need, 6 and 15. I go to frame 11, I exaggerated a little bit. I'm going to do the same for the wrist. Selecting the wrist, first I'm going to remove everything that I don't need, and then on frame 11, I'm going to rotate a little bit more to make our extreme pose. Okay. And then what's the other extreme pose? 19. It's 1 or 19. So we go to frame 2, and we're going to exaggerate a little bit both the wrist and the elbow. Cool. Which in this case, the elbow, I will fix the curve the same way we did before. I'm going to check the wrist again, so I know it's working. Yeah, same thing for rotate Z of the wrists. I select the first and the last linear tangent. And let's check. And there it is. There is our running cycle. Cool? Nice. One thing that you can do to improve it is basically do the same thing that we did to the walk cycle. Like we can go to this pose. I can bring the foot a little bit in, rotate out, because we do this in real life. It's not so robotic, so perfect. Okay, so you guys can do this to other poses. If you guys want, you can use the graph editor for that. Okay. One thing that helps with the graph editor, actually in Maya, is when you select something, you have 3 colors, right? So this is blue, this is green, and this is yellow now, but it's actually red. Okay. So when I want to connect stuff in Maya, knowing which one is X, Y, or Z, the colors are here to help us out. Like if I bring my graph editor, you see the red is translate X, which is also red. And if I select it, it will be a red curve as well. And it's the same for translate Y and the same for translate Z. Okay, so I know that if I select here, translate Z, which is blue, and I see a curve blue, I know if I change something here, it's going to move forward or move back. You see? So the colors blue, red, and green are here to help us to read better what's going on. Okay? So why I'm saying this? Because when I make the adjustments in frame one and frame two, I move the foot in, right? I move it a little bit in. So when I move in, I'm using translate X. And what I can do in translate X is I move this much in, it was here, I moved until here. So we can go to frame two and move to a similar position, right? And I can actually do the same for all the frames. Like I can continue my animation and I'm gonna keep in this pose. I can select all the keys down here and move them up so the whole animation will move in. The foot will move inwards for the whole animation, right? I did this eyeballing, but you can always zoom in and adjust, right? It's not a problem if it's a little bit different one for each other, especially if the foot is in the air. And in any case, you can always copy the first pose and paste to the last one to make sure they're identical. Cool. Another thing that we can do following the same thing is the rotation. So when I select my foot to rotate, and here the rotation is oriented to object, that's why the manipulator is like inclined, it's on an angle. So it's the same thing. You see the manipulator has three colors, the red, the blue, and this one is yellow, but it's actually green, okay? Because when you select one, it turns into the color selected. So I rotated in frame one using this one, which is the green one, right? And I rotated in frame two, also using the green one. So I want to keep doing this. You can go to the next frame and select rotate and do this. Or maybe you can go to the graph editor, you see, and use a similar rotation. Cool. So you know the rotation is similar, if not the same. Okay. I usually, for the rotation, I usually go frame by frame because I want it to be also like visually speaking, I want it to be cool, right? I want it to be um, just the way I want it. And this will rotate inwards. So yeah, there it is. I'm gonna adjust the other foot now. Rotate out a little bit, out a little bit, and in. There we go. Our running cycle. Cool. Really nice, right? Okay, so after doing the running cycle in place, like you did here, I want you guys to make the walking cycle, the running cycle, sorry, moving forward. And just to refresh, okay, I'm gonna do it quickly. I'm not gonna just the feet, but I'm gonna do the basics of the graph editor so you guys remember what to do. So first thing, I'm gonna select the ground controller, the top controller, I'm gonna remove the keys in between, keeping only the first and the last. And then I'm gonna move in the last frame, I'm gonna move it forward to a position that may work. And then I'm going to the graph editor. I'm going to first go to View and then turn on Infinity. Mine is already on, but you're going to turn on Infinity. Then you go to Curves, Pre-Infinity, Linear. Okay. Then you go again to Curves, Post-Infinity, and Linear. Doing that, you can select both keys of Translate Z, which is moving forward, and then go to Spline option, Spline tangents. And when you turn it on, you have a continuous line that keeps going before and after. Okay? After doing that, you're gonna select everything. Then you're gonna hold Control and you're gonna select only the ground control because we don't want it selected. And then you go again to the graph editor and then you go to curves pre-infinity cycle and then curves post-infinity cycle again. So the animation in the body, all the controllers will repeat over and over. Cool. After that, I want you guys to keep the time slider going from 1 to 19, and then you go to the needed frames and check what's happening to the feet. Okay, so you can zoom in, and in frames 5, like when I go to 6, there is a bit of a slide going forward. Okay, so now we have to fix the feet. And what am I gonna do? I don't want to key you guys, some of you guys created keys in the ground controller, like for every frame, creating a key and moving the ground controller back and forth to adjust. This is not the correct way to do that because the rig will start shaking. Because when you move the ground controller, you move the whole thing, right? So you maybe fix the fit, but the rig will move back and forth a lot and it's going to be funny. So what we're going to do is fix frame by frame. Okay. Um, we can start by selecting one of the frames that the foot's on the ground. I'm going to start by 16, sorry, frame 6, which is because the foot is on the ground for 6 frames, for 3 frames, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm going to choose the middle one as our reference, okay? So I'm going to use the grease pencil to mark where the foot is. And then I can go to one frame before, move the foot here, and then I can go one frame after and move the foot here, right? So now it makes more sense, you see? And then you guys can do the same for the other foot. So I will select the other foot. Let me see when it touches the ground. So it touches at 14, so probably 15 and 16 will be touching as well. So in 15, which is the middle frame, I want to bring our guy here. I'm not changing the zoom, so I can use the same grease pencil. Then I go to frame 14. I want to make it do something like this, and frame 16. Okay, I notice if for frame 14, the leg is too straight. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put in more comfortable position. I'm going to pan to the right position, and then we're going to fix 15 and 16. Okay, all good? So let me remove this. grease pencil. Let me zoom out and see what's happening. Yeah, now he's running with the feet doing the right stuff. Cool. So I want you guys to send again a side view, a front view, and a perspective view of both running in place and running moving forward. Okay? And now we're going to try what we're going to do in the next class, in the following class. Cool? We're going to do some stylized running cycle. Now that you guys know how to do this running cycle, in the regular walk cycle as well. We're gonna do a stylized running cycle. So it's more cartoony, and you guys know different what we use in the industry for different styles and how to play around with that. It's gonna be a fun exercise. Cool. So first thing, I'm gonna mute the moving forward um, of the ground control. Let me mute selected. Cool. So now he's back in place, running in the same place. Okay, so let me save this. Let me save as a different version. I'm gonna save as version 2 so we don't lose what we are doing. Cool. So what we're gonna do now, let's start by a running cycle, which is like, um, how can I say, maybe a bad guy, maybe a superhero, someone that is very concentrated, chasing something, you know, that uh, we can do using the same cycle we have, just changing a few things. For example, and I'm going to do this using the graph editor so you guys understand what I'm doing. We can select the hip and we can, I'm going to select translate Y, and we can reduce the up and down. Okay, so both up and down poses, we're gonna reduce them and leave them closer to each other. Yeah, and then after this, we're gonna select rotate. Let me check here. I want the rotate X, which is the red one. So we'll select all the keys. Actually, let me clean this one. So we're gonna select all the keys, and then we're going to rotate it in a way, we're going to move the keys in a way that our guy will rotate forward. Okay. One thing we can do as well is like, I'm going to frame 10. I'm going to rotate him forward. And then I'm going to make this. Cool. Yeah. So that's what we want. And the head, we're going to do the same thing. So if you hit F, like let's say you have a ref editor situation, something like this. I usually click in the empty space just to make sure I'm in the graph editor, and I hit F in my keyboard, F as Fernando, and it's gonna zoom everything. Okay. And for the head, let me see which one I want to move. So I want to rotate the blue one. So it's rotate Z. Okay. I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to adjust my zoom. This is just the zoom. Okay. In order to adjust the zoom like this, only in one direction, it's kind of complicated, but it's not that hard. You're going to hold Shift, you're going to hold Alt, you're gonna right click and then you're gonna move up and down or left and right. Okay, so I moved up and down in a way to make our curves small. So I can select all of them and move a lot in the graph edge. Cool. So I moved up, so the head of our character will be something like this. And I want also to move my spine. So let me see what we're gonna do, what we can do here. Let's move a little bit in Y. So, oh, it's moving down as the object. So I change the object. Yeah, so I want to move actually in the blue arrow direction, which is translate Z. I select all keys, and then I'm going to move up. Okay. And then I will select rotate X. Now it's in, okay, red. I'll select in move. Let me see. I move the curve down. Not too much, but a little bit. There you go. Cool. So now we have a run like this. But it's still not what you want. Um, we want the arms to be more close to the body as well. So I will select the elbow here. And let's find, yes, this pose. So let me rotate using the viewport. Oh, so it's, yeah, something like this. Rotate in as well. I'm gonna kind of redo the animation for the elbow. So I'm gonna remove this key for now. And I'll make this pose. Same for the wrist. I'll remove the animation I have in frame 2. And I'm gonna make it something like this. Oops. Okay. Then I go to frame 11 and I'm gonna exaggerate the shoulder. Oh, shoulder is in frame 10. I'm gonna exaggerate the shoulder. Yeah. I'll select the shoulder. Is it the same in 19? Yeah. So I have select the elbow, the wrist, copy frame 1, paste to frame 19, and then adjust the other arm. Exaggerating the movement. Copy. Then elbow. frame wrist. Exaggerate as well. Then I will select them, copy from first frame to last. Remove this for now. Then I go to frame 10, and I'm going to do a similar pose to what I did before. Yeah, so I have the basic poses, and now I want to make the adjustments. Okay, so starting by the blue arm, first we're going to remove this intersection happening in frame 4 and 5. You see, we don't want the arm going through the leg. So I would just select the elbow here in frame 5, and I'm going to bring out. And then I have the pose, the elbow and the wrist poses in frame 10. So I want to redo frame 11. So I go to frame 11, and I want to bring a little bit in to exaggerate it. And same for the wrist, just a little bit. And then when the arm is moving back, I want to move it out as well. So frame 15, I just select the elbow and rotate it out. Let's adjust the red one. So in frame 1, I have the basic pose. So in frame 2, I want to exaggerate it a little bit more, both elbow and wrist. Then move out, rotate it out. It's not intersecting here. Maybe I will bring the shoulder a little bit in and the elbow a little bit out. I'll select the wrist and elbow and copy on the first to the last frame. And then, yeah, I go to frame 14. I'm going to do the same. Move the shoulder a little bit in. I can move the elbow a little bit in as well. And it's getting there. Right? Now we want a run cycle, which is a more ninja cycle. Okay? So first I will, sorry, just a minute. What's happening here? Oh, okay. I want to change this to linear, more accurate. So how do we do this? I'm going to start by the blue foot. So the foot in ninja running, it doesn't go this far. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it closer to this, to the hip, to this line. Okay. I'm going to remove this as well. So I only need 5, 6, and 7 for now. I'm going to just 5, move up a little bit, And then I'm going to copy the pose from 1 to 19. And I'm going to do the same for the other foot. So frame 10, I want to bring down and remove this. We can remove frame 11, frame 12, frame 13, and adjust frame 14. Yep, there it is. We can add a pause to this. I'm selecting the blue one first. 1, 3. We can create a key here. Bring it to pose closer to 1. And then select here, frame 10. Go to frame 12 and bring it closer to pose in 10. So we're going to have a quick hold. Yeah, there are some pops on the knees that we would have to fix. Like here, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's see the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, still some adjustments to do, but I think that's it. This would be like a ninja running, attacker running, right? Someone that is concentrated, that has a mission. Okay. And we could also do something different. So let me save this, and I will save as. I'm gonna do a slightly different running cycle. Okay. Let me fix the pose first. Okay, so I'm gonna work on a different style, and I would change again the hip, the spine, the head, all of that, and let's make a, I don't know, a guy that is scared or a shy guy running, and let's see what happens. I'm gonna give a try to this one. And there we go. Another stylized run cycle. A guy, I don't know, a fancy guy, arrogant guy, a weird guy, maybe. Oh, let me go back to the hip and do some exaggeration here to finish it, because he's not a ninja. And there it is. Cool. What do you guys think? So you guys can now, this is not an assignment, but you guys can now work on running cycle or walk cycle maybe. And let's do this in class and do some stylized cycles. Okay? Cool. Thank you guys and see you.